My name's Colin, part of the team here, and it's great to have you with us this morning. If you are new to Holy Trinity, new to the church here, and would like to find out a little bit more, a couple of ways that you can do that to find out if this is a place that you want to put down roots and call home as a church. The first of is a very simple thing of sign up to our newsletter. Every week we send out a newsletter with all of the information about what's happening in the life of the church. You just get a little snippet on a Sunday here. Head to our website, scroll to the bottom and sign up for our newsletter. Every week we send out a newsletter there with all of the information, all of the different things that's happening, how to get involved. And this is a big week coming up in the life of the church. There's lots happening and lots for you to get involved in this week because it is the run up to Easter and this is Holy Week, and we have a number of things on every single evening this week, and we'd love to invite you to come and be involved and attend as many or as little of those as you would like, but do whatever you need to do to enter into the story of Easter afresh. And so we're going to be doing that this week. On Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to be having evening prayer here in the church at 7:30. Just a simple moment of prayer and reflection. There's going to be some liturgy. It's going to be a little bit more traditional than this service, but it's a beautiful space to gather around and just still ourselves, settle ourselves and enter this story. The big one, however, is on Maundy Thursday, where we have our Maundy Thursday meal here in the church. We have a meal together, we celebrate communion, and then it finishes the night by stripping this table behind me here. We will leave just the wood, the exposed wood behind us as we remember Jesus stripped. And this has been an incredible event that we've had the last couple of years. Last year we had 100 people here in the church, 2 big tables up the center of the church, people sitting around, sharing life, having a meal together as we celebrate the Last Supper. And we really enter into that moment of beauty, but also of confusion. And so we'd love to invite you along to that this Thursday night. To help us cater with numbers, please do sign up, just so that we know of any dietary requirements and things like that. So head to the website, htrinity.ie, and you will see this picture if you scroll down. Click on it and you can sign up there. There's no charge, no cost. It's a free dinner for you on Thursday evening. But it starts at 6:30. We'll be finished probably by around 8:30 at the very latest. But we'd love to invite you along to that as we really enter that story afresh and have some good food together, celebrate communion together. And then the other thing is, on Good Friday, we gather here for an hour at the cross. It's going to be an hour of reflections, of music, of readings, of stories, as again we sit in that moment of Good Friday, in the pain, in the darkness, in the confusion of that story. Again, a really beautiful service here in the church at 2:30. And then Easter Sunday, next week, join us as we gather together for a joint celebration. On a Sunday, we have 3 services each week. We have a 8:30, a 10 o'clock, and this 11:30. But on Easter Sunday, we're all going to be gathering together as one at 11 o'clock to celebrate that Jesus is risen and alive. It's always good fun. The church is packed. We're going to have some hot cross buns, I believe, some good refreshments after the service, and there's going to be things for the kids to get involved in. It's going to be a real day of celebration. But next Sunday, 11 o'clock is the time to join us here for Easter Sunday. Now, what else have we got? A very straightforward one is, in the life of the church, every year we have an AGM. Very, very exciting. Can I hear a little whoop for the AGM? Yeah, that's what we want. Our AGM is coming up, our Easter vestry, on Monday, the 28th of April at 7:30 in the evening. For those of you who would like to come along to that, we'd love to invite you. We're going to be sharing some stories of what's been happening in the life of the church. One of those things that we just do every year, but actually really important for us to gather here, a bit of a state of the nation address of what's been happening in the life of the church, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. So for those of you who would like to join us Monday the 28th of April at 7:30. And then the last thing I have to say is, over the last while, the ladies in the church, they have done a gather event which has gone incredibly well. And the men, in all honesty, we felt a little bit of a kick in the backside that we need to get ourselves into gear. And so we're having a men's night on Saturday, the 10th of May, here in the church at 7:30. Holy Trinity men. Yes, that's it. Wow, Ethan just going straight in there with the masculinity. And we'd love to invite any men in the congregation, any men in the community to join us. Put this date in your diary. Over the coming weeks, we're going to be exploring what it's going to look like. There's definitely going to be food and some input. But 7:30 on Saturday, the 10th of May, and we really want to invest in the men here at Holy Trinity, to gather the men together, to invest in community, and we believe that God does something incredible when we do that. So put that in your diary for now. Wanted to give you a little bit of advance notice, the 10th of May, all the men together. So we've covered everyone except for the children. Zoe, come tell us what our kids are doing today in their groups.
Yeah, so we have our kids groups on again this morning. We have Karen and Bev upstairs wrapping up our Easter series with our 1st to 6th class. And we also have Alex and Cleena upstairs with their younger kids doing, entering into the story of Palm Sunday. Loads of things going on in our groups. As always, we love our groups, but we're also so aware that the main moments of sharing faith happen at home with parents who are perfectly positioned to share faith with their children, but maybe you don't feel quite equipped. So I'm here this morning to help you out, parents. If you would like some practical resources to help share the story of Easter with your kids, please come into the long room after the service. I have some lovely little, like a Holy Week box. I have an Easter scavenger hunt, some books and things, and I'd love to share them with your family free of charge, just so that you can explore that in a way that makes sense to your kids. It's so lovely to already see some of the kids playing with some of the things we've handed out. So passionate about supporting our children to love God in a fresh way. We also have our long room, our family room, open this morning, and Rebecca's going to come alongside our team there to help provide some supervision. So if you'd love to leave your child there for the morning during the service, please just check in with them first beforehand, but you're welcome to stay with your kid.
That's great. Thank you, Zoe. And can we give a big round of applause to all our kids team, each and every week, who are serving our kids and families here. As a parent of 2 young kids, it is the biggest gift to know that our kids are being invested in and being looked after so well. So thank you for all of the team that look after that. In a moment, our kids are going to go out to their groups, and we're going to take a break where we take up our offering. But we believe that our financial offering is one of the ways that we worship God. And so we each week we say this little bit of liturgy together, just to remind ourselves why we give. Why do we do this thing every week? And so we say this bit of liturgy together just to remind ourselves why we do this. So why don't we speak this out together? Lord, everything we have comes from you. So we respond in worship by giving these gifts in our lives back to you for the glory of your name. Amen. And so if you'd like to give, all the details are going to be on screen. There's going to be baskets going around. During this time, our kids are going to go out to their groups, and it's a great chance to turn to someone you don't know and ask them what their plans are for Easter Sunday lunch. That's a good one.
His great faithfulness. Good to go. Great. Good afternoon. Get invited to close your conversations and listen to me. So thanks very much. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Scott. I'm part of the teaching team here, and we are finishing our series Deeper Still today, and we'll be looking at another practice of what a spiritual practice that helps us, facilitates a space for God to work in our lives and therefore the lives around us. And Rob started this series with, I suppose, a passage in Luke chapter 5. And this is a passage where Jesus meets Peter, and Peter's in his boat, and they've been trying to fish all night, and he has, I suppose, this point he's trying to say to Jesus: look, we have worked all night long and have caught nothing. And I think it's a really important expression that we can all have in our spiritual life, in our spiritual journey. There's going to be moments where we will feel we have worked all night and have caught nothing. We're going to have moments where I go to church regularly, I pray, I do all these things for you, God, and yet I've caught nothing. I've tried so hard, God, just come and speak to me or experience, and I want something, and we've done our best, and I've done my best, and yet I've caught nothing. Part of the spiritual journey is that we all will meet this moment in our lives. Unfortunately, probably many times in our lives. A kind of spiritual wall, or a kind of spiritual burnout, a kind of spiritual frustration. And I suppose that's okay, because that's part of our journey. And Jesus doesn't say to Peter, that's fine, pack it in, it's no good anymore. Your faith, yeah, it was good for a while, and you caught some fish in the shallows, but it's not working anymore, so just stop. Likewise, Jesus doesn't say, yes, you got to try harder, you're a stupid fisherman, do you not know? You got to catch the fish, come on. And I remember speaking recently to two friends, and the three of us were talking, reflecting back over the years of friends of ours who were following Jesus in their boat, catching fish, catching experiences of God, and then it kind of became not there anymore, and they kind of packed it in. And so what Jesus responds to Peter, not saying pack it in, not saying try harder, he says this: put out into the deep water. And this is what we've been trying, this has been the heart that Rob has really felt the Spirit say to us, church, that there's a time for us to put out into the deep water. There are no more fish to catch in the shallows. It's time to go to the deep water and catch some new fish, new senses of God in your life. There are no more there in the shallows. It's time to go deeper. Richard Rohr once said this, a Franciscan monk. He said, our last experience of God is frequently the greatest obstacle to the next experience of God. We rely on old ways or old things or old thinking, but God is inviting us as a church and as individuals to go into the deep. And so we've been looking at all these aspects, these practices of getting deep, almost that metaphorical net to go into the deep waters. What does it mean to have Sabbath rest? What does it mean to bring deeper community through worship, and worship through song, prayer and fasting? And today we'll be looking at silence and solitude. And we want to look at, and really the answer to this, all these rhythms, is what Jesus says to us. He says this to us in the Message translation, as Rob said at the very start of this series. Are you tired? This is Jesus saying to us. Are you worn out? Are you burnt out in religion? What does it mean to come to a deeper place? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. So as a church, this is what we're doing. We're learning the unforced rhythms of grace. There's a rhythm in our body of breath, of in and out. So we go in into silence and solitude, and we go out into community. We go in into receiving, and we go out into giving. For so many of us, we're maybe going out too much, and Jesus is saying, no, you need to come in. And for other people, Jesus is saying, no, you need to go out. But we're learning this unforced rhythms of what it means to follow Jesus. And so I want to turn to a person in the Bible, a guy called Elijah. And if you want to grab your Bibles, on the red one, it's page 284. It's 1 Kings chapter 19. I don't know what the page is in the other Bibles. And you might have it on your phone or whatever. So it's 1 Kings chapter 19. And we want to look at an example of a person called Elijah who also hit a spiritual wall, who also hit a spiritual burnout. And through the process of silence and solitude, he gets a fresh sense of meaning and purpose and a sense of restoring to get back into life. And we're just going to be following a few principles through this story. So 1 Kings chapter 19, and it's going to for the chapter. And this is just a quick background. The book is Kings, and Kings is all these different kings of Judah and Israel. And at the moment, there's a king called King Ahab, who wasn't a great king. He was a tyrant, but he was more like a passive king. The real problem was his wife, Jezebel, and she gets a bad rap, but she wasn't a great woman at all. And she kind of drew King Ahab and all of Israel, most of Israel, into forsaking God, forsaking Yahweh, and turning to idols called Baal. And the two, King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, are kind of in a conflict because Elijah's the prophet saying, no, this is wrong, this is wrong. And the chapter 18 was this incredible moment on Mount Carmel, which is this sort of place of worship to the Baal. And Elijah just made it harder and harder and harder for him in his own strength to show that God is with him. So first of all, it was 400 prophets of Baal versus just one of him. So the odds aren't great there. If you watch a football match when it's 10 against, this is 400 versus one. And then there had been no water for three years. But what he decided to do, he poured water on his sacrifice, so it's drenched water. And then he gave the prophets of Baal loads of time to call down fire on his burnt offering. But in the end, God came in fire, and it was incredibly powerful. So it was really a sense, wow, this great spiritual high that Elijah had. It's really exciting. He showed up. God is with me. God is powerful. God is strong. I don't need to be worried about anything. I don't need to be worried about King Ahab. I don't need to be worried about Queen Jezebel. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. So big spiritual high. And then we start the story in chapter 19, verse 1. Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah saying this, so may the gods do to me and more also if I do not make your life like the life of one of them by this time tomorrow. Then he was afraid. He got up and fled for his life and came to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah. So in a very roundabout way, I don't know why Jezebel went in a very circular way, but basically saying, I'm going to kill you just like you killed the prophets of Baal. And he fled, he feared. But just in the last moment, he had nothing to fear. He had God on his side, God was showing up, and this fear. And what we read next is this. So then he left his servant there, but he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a solitary broom tree. And he said this, it is enough now, O Lord, take away from my life, for I am no better than my ancestors. Then he lay down under the broom tree and fell asleep. We'll leave it there. So what I want to show is maybe these four aspects of this principle of silence and solitude that are crucial if we want to practice this practice of silence and solitude. First is the wilderness, then the waiting, then the silence, and then the return. So this is the first section, is the wilderness. So Elijah, it's amazing, isn't it, that just one message, even though it was a bit of a scary message, but he's been having all these messages for so long. One sort of turn of phrase, one text message, one dislike or like can suddenly just crash it on a spiritual high. Yes, yes, yes. And then bam, my life's not worth living. Incredible drop. He just like Peter, I've caught nothing all night. I'm in despair. What is the point? And so there's this spiritual discipline and this rhythm and tradition that all through the centuries that we have to sometimes escape from our culture for a while. We have to go to the wilderness. Because the messages that are thrown at us in very subtle or not so subtle ways can be grating on us, can be grating on our spiritual walk. You're only good enough if you are this. You're only beautiful enough if you look like this. Messages that kind of create fear in us, messages that could create stress and greed and dissatisfaction. These messages are all around us in our culture. And it's interesting that when you look at the Gospels, the crowds are a real image or metaphor of the fickleness of the crowd. And today in Palm Sunday, the crowd are going, Hosanna, God's great. And a few days later, crucify him. The crowd can move, culture can move and sway and influence us and change us. And we do see this with Jesus as well in Luke. Just after the passage of Peter, it says this, Jesus says that Jesus would often withdraw to desolate wilderness places to pray. A lot of philosophers would suggest that we as individuals do not think our own thoughts. We don't think our own thoughts at all. We think our culture's thoughts. And Paul knew this when he said to a church, he said, don't be conformed by the pattern of this world. Don't be conformed by these ideas, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And one of the ways we do that is we get away to the wilderness. The wilderness is important because the wilderness isn't going on a spa retreat or Netflix and chill or charging your social battery, all really important things and all very important things at times. But it's about the wilderness is about something letting go of some of these creature comforts. It said here that Elijah left his servant. He left the kind of things and he went a day's journey into the wilderness. Jesus did the same. He went to desolate places. The Desert Fathers, who were around the 4th century when Christianity no longer became outlawed and actually became the state religion, funny enough, they went, this isn't good. We need to get away from this. And they escaped to the desert. They knew there was something about having to get to the wilderness all this time. And so, what is the wilderness? It is a place, as I said, you let go of creature comforts. Maybe except one, though. Elijah had a broom tree. I have my coffee. You can find what's there. And so what happens when you're there? Well, first of all, we read here, it's a bit scary when you go on your own without any of these distractions. You start to find out what you're really thinking. Verse 4, he went by himself a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree and have his coffee. He asked that he might die. It is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my ancestors. So when you're on your own with your emotions and thoughts, things can bubble up. And just accept them. Accept our thoughts and our emotions and our exhaustions. Because in prayer, in the wilderness, in some ways, what solitude is, sorry, that's a good quote. Without solitude, we remain victims of our society, as I said earlier on. So we need to get away. But solitude is about being alone, but also it's about being alone with a loving God who can sit with us in all our emotions and all our difficulties. We're alone with that loving presence. That is so important to know about solitude. We are alone, but you're alone with a loving Father. The second thing that you'll probably notice with this, if you ever get a time on your own, I've sometimes do this often. Most years I go off on a retreat. I try to get to the wilderness. I go to Glendalough. It's not that a wilderness. I try to avoid the crowds because it doesn't become a wilderness. And I go to a little retreat center there. And when I come, I go in and great, I'm going to have some prayer and study. Okay. And I get a bit restless. And then I maybe sit in my bed. And then I get a little bit sleepy. And I lie down and I fall asleep. Maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Have you ever tried to slow down? That's what often happens. And we see this is exactly what happens to Elijah. He goes and falls asleep. Suddenly an angel touched him and said to him, get up and eat. He looked, and there at his head was a cake baked in hot stones in a jar of water. He ate and drank and lay down again. Then an angel of the Lord came a second time and touched him and said, get up and eat. Otherwise, the journey will be too much for you. So he got up, ate and drank, and then he went in the strength of that food. So most of the time, solitude and silence actually takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of a sense of, you have to have some energy. Very hard to have silence and solitude if you're tired. You'll just fall asleep, or you'll get anxious, or you get bored, get frustrated. So most of the time, what's really important when you go into silence and solitude is to be rest. And often, that's probably what we need, is just to rest. I don't know about you guys, whenever you go on a holiday, I often need the 2 or 3 hours where it's not really a holiday, it's just exhaustion, and it's only the last day or two enjoy the holiday, then I have to get ready to go to work again. Something about my lifestyle that holidays shouldn't be about just crashing, it should be about recreating recreation. It should be kind of reinvited. And that's what silent study. But so many of us live such exhausted lives. John Mark Comer, who's talked a lot about this, says this: one of the greatest dangers to the apprentice of Jesus, which hopefully is all of us, is the exhaustion that comes from an over-busy life. One of the greatest dangers to the apprentice to Jesus is the exhaustion that comes from an over-busy life. So the wilderness, we're breaking away from our creature comforts. We're getting alone with God. Emotions and thoughts will fly out. We'll probably be exhausted, and that's okay. God is with us. He can take anything we feel, any emotions. We can get angry with God. We can fall asleep, and he'll comfort us and feed us. Because the journey is hard in silence and solitude. You do need strength to do this. My journey of sort of silence and solitude, first of all, it was Andrew Somerville did this thing called Come to the Quiet, which was a group that would go to a retreat center, and it'd be times 3 or 4 hour blocks of silence and solitude. And you'd have, which is really weird, you had these meals together in silence. There's this like Jesuit place called Manrasa, and you'd be eating your food, and you can't talk. I remember one time I was queuing up, which I thought we're going up for ice cream. And I was going to get what I thought was chocolate sauce, but thankfully my friend broke the silence vow and said, "That's gravy, Scott." I was like, "Okay, thanks." So sometimes it's okay to break silence sometimes. But that was enough for me, and I found it very hard. But bit by bit, I began to, over time, create a sense. Again, I would often go to these retreats and fall asleep and go quiet. And then usually it's maybe just the last hour or two, I'd be fed, I'd be rested, and then I could tolerate the silence and solitude of being alone with myself, but most of all being alone with God. So important to make that point. The waiting. Just one verse, really, in verse 8. So he got up and drank, and then he went in strength of the food 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God. And at that place he came to a cave and spent the night there. Notice the number 40. We're in Lent. 40 is a very deep symbolic meaning in the Bible. It's often associated with testing, with trial, with preparation, and transformation. And so it shows up repeatedly in the Old and New Testaments, where individuals or groups undergo a significant period of change and encounter with God. And this Mount of Horeb is actually, I don't know why I didn't say it here, but it's Mount Sinai. And Mount Sinai was the mountain where Moses met God in thunder, in earthquakes, in fire, in amazing things. And he got the 10 Commandments, and it was very powerful. Mountains were such a symbol of encounter with God. From Mount Sinai to Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, to Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration. These are all encounters, special divine encounters with God. And of course, we'll be leading up to one of the ultimate mountains, the Mount of Calvary, where Jesus really showed, and God really showed who he was. But there's a waiting part of silence and solitude. It's so important. I think I was trying to track back in journals and stuff. I think it was about 15 years ago, I heard a sermon like silence and solitude. I was like, great, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get up each morning. Didn't have kids at the time, so there was a lot of silence. And I was going to go, right, God, you're going to show up. You're going to amazing encounters. Going to hear your voice, and this is going to be amazing. So day 1, I did it, and nothing really happened. It's okay. Okay. Day 2, and I did it for about 28 days. I remember I was going to do it for 4 weeks. 28 days. That's good. Nothing happened. It was boring. God didn't show up, and I just packed it in. It was rubbish. I got annoyed. I was trying to troll outcomes. Why did God not show up? I did this thing. I sat in silence for about 10, 15 minutes, solitude. I wasn't reasoning. My mind was all over the place. But nothing happened. Because while in some ways I was waiting, I wasn't waiting. I was demanding. I was expecting. I didn't have a posture of waiting. And then recently I've been really enjoying T.S. Eliot's poem, The Four Quartets. It's 4 poems, hence 4 quartets. And in this part of this poem, I want to read this out to you. This is T.S. Eliot saying this. I said to my soul, be still and wait without hope. For hope would be hope for the wrong thing. Like I was hoping for something when I was doing that. Wait without love. For love would be love of the wrong thing. There is yet faith. But the faith and the love and the hope are all in the waiting. Wait without thought, for you are not ready for thought. So the darkness shall be the light, and the stillness the dancing. You see, if you create an expectation that God's going to actually show up, could you imagine Elijah walking for 40 days each day? But he knew at one moment God will show up, but maybe I'll just keep going. But if you're expecting some sort of miracle or a divine thing, the whole purpose of practice silence and solitude is just letting that all go with no expectations. And what I began to realize in the last couple of years when I've tried to re-engage with silence and solitude, I've been more realizing that the faith and the love and their hope are all in the waiting. I'm not waiting for them, they're there already. Waiting is the moment. The journey, in the cliched way, is the destination. And waiting for God, I began to realize, is actually God is waiting with me. You see, he is working in our souls, in our hearts, without us even realizing it sometimes. See, that is faith. That is faith saying God is doing a work even if I don't see it. That is hope. I hope that God is going to change even if I don't feel this silence and solitude. And that is love, that I'm in love with you, God, that I'm going to sit with you for 10, 20 minutes a day in silent solitude, not to get anything from you, but just as an act of love for you. The wait is so important. If we don't have that, like me, I just gave up on it. Now the silence. So he makes it to Mount Horeb. And he gets angry with God again. Then the word of the Lord came to him, saying, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And he answered, "I have been very zealous for you, the Lord, God of hosts. For the Israelites have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars. They killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left, and they are seeking my life to take it away." Verse 11, God says, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Yes, this is the moment. Been waiting 20 minutes for God to show up. There was a great wind, so strong that it was splitting mountains and breaking rocks in pieces before the Lord. This is just like Moses. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. I remember this as well, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. The fire of Pentecost, the fire of God, the fire that just showed up in chapter 18. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of sheer silence. My journey of solitude and silence is that I've realized there's a difference between external silence and internal silence. And solitude can bring us to a point of external silence as best we can. But the trickier process I've learned in the last few years is the internal silence. And to recognize that God will speak through fire and earthquakes. He speaks to us loads of different ways, but there's also this aspect that God will speak to us through silence. And one of the aspects that's really helped me with this, one kind of method, I know we try to be practical, is this well-known, well, maybe it's not well-known, but thing called centering prayer, which is this helpful way of grounding silent solitude because it's in the framework of prayer. It's kind of like what Rebecca spoke on with the acronym of prayer, P-R-A-Y. P is pause, O is rejoice, A is ask, and Y is yield. And I'm really just focusing on the P, pause. And centering prayer is really good for that. What I've often been doing is little sort of object lessons, I suppose. So this is our brain, our mind, and it is an incredible factory for thoughts. So if you've ever done silence or solitude, what usually happens, let's say I did it this morning. I did the coffee, which is good. So yeah, and then a thought comes into straight away, bam. "Oh, you're speaking today, Scott." Yeah. "Oh yeah, when am I going to speak on? Will I do that? Will I do that? Before I know, my mind's busy. "Oh no, okay, no, I can't be after. Okay, we're doing silence. Great. "Oh, what are we doing for lunch today? Oh no, okay, I'll forget about that. Oh, my back's a bit sore. Actually, yeah, I surely should get back exercising. No, I think yeah, no, that'd be really good. Wait a minute, I'm talking in solitude. I need to get back to quiet and solitude." So then no thoughts for a while. Then another thought comes. "Oh yeah, no, that'd be really good. I'll use this example later on about me. I'll use these balls, that's really good. I wonder where the balls are." "No, it's okay. And on it goes. Our thoughts just come there. So what I've learned is a few different things about this, and centering prayer is really good, and you can Google centering prayer, you can read books on it, is this idea that it's our posture. So when our thoughts are coming, if you want to have this interior silence, usually I do this when the thought comes and I kind of bash it away like that. No, and I'm really kind of ready for them. And I used to do this, I was like, no, I don't want to think, and I bash them away like this and hit myself, and more thoughts like this. Or another way is actually a thought comes and I am just thinking about that thought. Maybe it's something like, if I really showed the boss, if the boss had seen me do that, they wouldn't have given out to me. And I really kind of think about that for ages. And and also, oh, no, I can't be thinking. But it's this sort of fighting. And so what centering prayer is about these thoughts when they come to us, I've been learning for the last few years, is a posture of just letting go. So when the thought comes, it can be anything, you let it happen, and then instead of holding it on too tightly or fighting it, you just let it go. Just let it go. The thought comes, just let it go. And what they suggest in centering prayer, how you do that is this thing called the sacred word. You pick a word. It's just a word. So it could be Abba, it could be God, it could be love. Just a reminder why you're doing this. You're doing this for God in his presence. So when a thought comes, oh, I should stack the dishwasher. Abba, you just let go. And you could have a really profound thought. That's really interesting about Elijah. I wonder, no, just let it go. And what you're doing is you're practicing your surrender muscle. That's all you're doing. You're just surrendering. Our ego, our pride is fueled by our mind and our thoughts. If we think great thoughts, people are going to think we're great. And so what this is doing, it's in creating a practice in your life that you can let go of thoughts. And you just do it for 20 minutes. I remember I was doing this, I used kind of like a little timer that records sort of, even though it's not very helpful, just has a nice little ding. I do that for 20 minutes every day, most days I can. And most times, nothing really happens. Sometimes my thoughts are racing. And it's literally just like that for 15 minutes. Sometimes, though, it begins to just calm down. I'm sort of lowering the nervous system, and I'm beginning to just slow it down. And there's these moments of sheer silence. And the thought comes, but it doesn't really last that long. Just sheer silence. And I've had these moments, and I'm very wary to say it because this isn't the point. As I said, it's of the waiting. You don't really experience much in centering prayer. What you're doing is you're just practicing that muscle of surrender, of denying yourself. There's these moments in that space, though. There was a moment, everything was still in my mind. And I just started to cry. I just felt beyond my mind a healing, a softening. And then more thoughts come and I let them go. Because one of the most important things in centering prayer and silence is the return. When Elijah heard the sound of sheer silence, he wrapped his face in a mantle, went out and stood in the entrance of the cave. Then there came a voice to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He answered, "I've been very zealous for the Lord of hosts, for the Israelites," blah, blah, blah. He gives out again, "I alone am left. They are seeking my life to take it away." Then the Lord said to him, "Go," this is verse 15, "go return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus. When you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael as king over Adam. Also you shall anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, as king over Israel. And you shall anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat Abel Maluah, as prophet in your place." Have you noticed something there, what's happened with this returning? Centering prayer in silence and solitude, the fruit of it don't happen in the moment of your silence and solitude and centering prayer. The fruit happen from it. This image of wrapping yourself around a mantle was an image I read in the commentaries of humility. Elijah, I'm sure, being a great prophet, doing cool stuff for God, I'd say his ego was probably getting a bit nice. I'm pretty cool, I'm a great prophet. And maybe part of his burnout, most people say burnout is when you push yourself too much, because actually pride is probably pushing you too much. You're not doing, who knows? Or you're kind of depending on your identity from external circumstances. And maybe God, the Spirit, was drawing him into the wilderness to remind him who he is, that he is a son of God, doesn't depend on your circumstances. So just let that go. And through humility, he was able to just go, yeah. And that's the centering prayer, is just letting go. Peter in the boat, when he called all those fish after the deep waters, he bowed down. God, I'm a sinful man. That's what silent solitude usually does. Oh, I'm a sinful man, those crazy thoughts I'm having. But you're also saying, but I'm in the presence of a loving God. God loves me. It's a humility of letting go of the ego, letting go of these thoughts. So we see this. And you see this amazing context as well, that through this humility, through this letting go, he was able to let go of this job. He was able to pass it on. He was ready then to meet Elisha, who was going to be the up-and-coming new great prophet. And he was ready for it then to pass, and he let go of that ego. A humble person is a beautiful person, aren't they? It's not a groveling person. It's a person that's just free in themselves, They don't hold on to anything too tightly or too loosely. They're in positions of power maybe, and they're in positions of leadership, but they just hold it lightly, and they want to bring people along. And for me in my walk, and you can ask people in my family maybe, but through the process of centering prayer, of solitude and silence, I'm learning just to continually let that ego go. Continually let that ego go. My thoughts, just let it all go. And that muscle of letting things go is amazing. Remember a great man of God, Dallas Willard, who wrote lots about the spiritual disciplines. He was a philosopher, clever man. And there was a guy who was watching Dallas Willard finish up a lecture, and this other guy had some student, know-it-all student, was giving him loads back, disagreeing with him. And Dallas Willard just said, okay, well, no, we'll finish the lecture there. And the guy went up to him, Dallas, you're so much brainier than this guy. Why didn't you not sort of put him down a few pegs? He says, oh no, I'm learning the discipline, not always having to have the last word. Because silence is just as effective in community. When you can sit there and let someone else celebrate their successes rather than jumping in for your one. Or if things are a little bit just misconstrued, no, I'm just going to let it be. I'm practicing the discipline and not always having to have the last word. Silence and solitude will also provide renewed meaning and purpose. Elijah went back up on his horse, and he went back to doing his job as a prophet, which was anointing kings. He went back to his job. So this process of him, I want to die, I'm not good, no one's there for me, just blah, 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 despair, burnout. Through this process of wilderness, of silence, of waiting, of solitude, he was ready to go again. Yes, return, anoint people. And actually God's saying, look, you're not on your own. There's thousands of other people that are following you, so don't be all depressed like that. Okay, God. And so he went back with renewed vigor, renewed purpose and direction. I think there's a softening of heart that happens when you practice silence and solitude as well. It's so hard to speak on something on silence, isn't there? But these are all so important. If we get away into the wilderness, but don't return, we don't want to kind of get back to life, or it can almost be a bit like spiritual narcissism. I'm just going to have my lovely quiet time, and no one annoy me, and God, don't change me or challenge me, and it's not really, you have to return. If we're not willing to wait patiently for God in the process of just expecting God to do something amazing, we end up, it's almost like spiritual emotionalism. We just want God for the emotions. They come at times. There can be beautiful moments, but not all the time. And so, finishing up, we have these 5 principles. Think about 5 fingers, or 1 thumb and 4 fingers on your hand. If you've been on the journey, either come to church the last 5 or 6 weeks, or listen to the podcast, or just hearing them now, I wonder which one the Spirit, all are essential. We need all our fingers, don't we, and thumbs for a hand to be fully operational. But there might be one that the Spirit is sort of laying on you. Just have a look at the rest. Look at them for a second. What is the one that you think the Spirit is calling you to go deeper with? Is it just resting, creating a condition in your life that you are not exhausted all the time? Is it a space for community and hospitality? Maybe it's time to just stretch yourself and meet people and give of yourself and receive from others. Is it a time to worship and to humble yourself and even physically express through song and through arts and through creativity worship to God, through gratitude? Is it through prayer and practicing a prayer, even a fasting? Another aspect of prayer which I spoke today is its silence and solitude. I'll begin to invite the band back up as we finish. Thanks. One of the things that might help, if you're still wondering which one is there, is this concept called, you can have the right, these are all right practices. But think about your time in your life. Is silence and solitude the right practice for you at this time? Maybe not. Maybe it is. So think about your time. And also the right way of doing it is so important. It's the right practice in the right way in the right time. So I invite you guys just to close your eyes and sit, or kneel if you want to. And put your hands out as a sense of just acknowledging that you want to receive, or you're here just to sit with your loving Father. And Father, I pray for me, I pray for our community. We ask for your faith, for hope and for love in whatever practice we're doing it. We're doing it in faith, knowing that our little bit, our little practice, that we know you'll use that to continue to make change in us. Even if we don't feel it or see it, we choose to believe and have faith in that. I pray for us who are in a bit of despair and a bit of burnout. We've fished all night and have caught nothing. I pray by your Spirit now that you would fill us with fresh hope. Help us return back tomorrow with more hope. And for love, sorry, Father God, if we've ever used these practices as ways of controlling you or as ways of this, if we do this practice, therefore you'll love us more. That must grieve your heart. We do it out of love for you and just to enjoy being in your presence. So I just invite you guys just to allow Dillis and the band to sing this song over you. You can sing it, you can listen to it. Sing to your soul and say to your soul, be still, for the presence of the Lord is here. Be still, soul. Let the darkness be the light, and the stillness bring dancing to your heart. Amen.
Be still for the presence of the Lord, the Holy One.